Alright, good afternoon guys, it's Jeff. I'm back again. No, I've been making a lot of videos about sort of atheism and so on recently. I'm a bit of a born again atheist. you know. I had a conversation the other day, and something sort of argument was put to me, and it's an old argument actually, and I just thought I might make a video about this and address it. And I'm sure there's plenty of other YouTube atheists and so on that have shot this thing down, probably a lot better than I could, in all honesty. But it's this Pascal's wager. Okay, now for those that aren't necessarily familiar with this, okay, let me just briefly explain what this is. This was an idea. It came up, it was put forward by the sort of philosopher and mathematician Blaise Pascal, who lived in the sort of 1600s. And a lot of it was based on sort of probability ideas and so on. But it's an idea based on the Christian version of God, although I'm sure other religions have probably used this. But what it effectively it is I'll explain this. There's 6 points to this thing. Okay, number one, God is or God is not. Reason cannot decide between the two alternatives. Okay, this is just what I'm reading off of Wikipedia. Okay, so number two, game is being played, heads or tails will turn up. 3, you must wager, this isn't optional. 4, let us weigh the gain and the loss of wagering that God is. Let us estimate these two chances. If you gain, you gain all. If you lose, you lose nothing. 5, wager then without hesitation. He is, there is an infinity of infinitely happy life to gain, a chance of gain, and against a finite number of chances of loss. And what is what is at stake, and so on. Our proposition of infinite force, when there is a finite stake in the game and there are equal risks of gain and loss. Says, however, this is the key one, the last one here. Okay, but some cannot believe. So then you should at least learn to effectively convince yourself of the existence of God. That's the kind of wager. So to put this in, down into a sentence, that it is better you should believe in God, because what if you're wrong? That's what it really comes down to. That's what it really comes down. What happens if you're wrong? You go to hell. Just saying. Okay, so that's the sort of argument. It's better to believe. Even if you have doubts, you've got to force yourself to believe, and so on, because otherwise, you're covering yourself. It's a kind of religious insurance policy, I suppose, is the best way to describe it. Okay. Now, let me just explain a couple of problems I have with this. Let's first of all, let's say, if there is a God, if it is God, if it is the God of the Bible, or so on, okay, if it's this if this is God's an all-knowing, all-wise, all-powerful, whatever, do you not think he's going to know the fucking difference between someone who genuinely believes and someone who's forcing themselves to believe just to cover their own arse? Do you not think he's going to know the difference? Okay, so straight away, it doesn't really work on that basis alone. Okay. Second of all, well, this is it's the same argument that I really have to throw back to anyone who say this. What if you're wrong? What if there is there is a God, but it's not your God? Let's first say, for example, if you're a Christian, turns out that Allah, that the Muslims had it right, or turns out that it's Odin or Zeus or Krishna, or whatever it may be. I mean, you want to look back throughout history, and that there have been thousands upon thousands of deities from many sort of different forms of religion and so on. So here's the problem: what if any one of them is the correct one? I mean, Christ, what if it's the bloody flying spaghetti monster? You know, for goodness sake. So you know, so my caveat to that would be if I would, if that goes up, and I, you know, now particularly let's say this, okay, in the monotheistic sort of religions, especially, you know, they have gods that are very jealous and angry, and I think the worst thing you can do is, you know, worship one that is false or whatever. So I get up there and I find I'm wrong. I didn't worship. Let's say you know, Yahweh, should we say? So I'll be like, yeah, but I didn't I didn't worship the competition either, so probably wouldn't get me in. But here's the problem. This is why. But do you get why I think Pascal's wager just doesn't work? Okay. I mean, here's the thing. Now there was a very good answer put to this in the 1990s by you know, a guy called Michael Martin, who's a philosopher, and he sort of you know, answered this with the kind of atheist wager, and you know, it was quite interesting, but he sort of boiled this down. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but boiled down to this, right? Okay. If a benevolent God exists, okay, the thing, okay, let me backtrack a second, okay, on this one, because I think I've jumped a bit ahead of myself here on the atheist wager. The thing that Martin puts forward is it's more better to live a good life than anything else, okay? That's the kind of thing, okay? So now, for example, okay, let me just explain this. Now, if there is a benevolent God that exists, okay, if you've lived a good life, whether you believe in God or not, you go to heaven. If you've lived an evil life, you've been evil, you go to hell, okay? Okay, now that works if there is a benevolent God, okay? If there's no benevolent God that exists, or no God at all that exists, or whatever, here's the thing: belief in God or no belief in God, if you lived a good life, you've left a positive legacy. And if you lived a bad life, you've been nasty to people, you've been a dick to people, you've left a negative legacy. So, you know, certainly that was kind of the retort to that in a way. But yeah, I heard that argued for the first time in quite a long time, actually, and I think it's a nonsense argument. I really think, you know, it's a nonsense argument for those kind of couple of reasons that, you know, I mean, I'm sure Pascal did base his entire thing on, you know, he obviously was a Christian. He, you know, plays Pascal's from France and so on. So, you know, he'd been in the height of sort of, you know, kind of Christian Europe. I'm sure there's, you know, other religions that have used the form of this argument. But this is why I don't, you know, I think it's a nonsense argument. It's a non-starting argument. And, you know, I would certainly recommend perhaps people look at the Michael Martin's atheist wager or something and think, you know, take a look at that and think, is that necessarily a better sort of outlook to have on this? Okay, so that was just my thoughts on Pascal's wager, okay, and why I think it's nonsense, and, you know, and it doesn't work. Okay, I'll see you guys later. All right, salute.